Rise and shine. This is your morning Buzzcast for Tuesday, April 22nd. I'm Austin Karp here in Nashville for the CAA World Congress of Sports. I'm joined by my colleagues, Rachel Axon and Chris Smith. Guys, day one is upon us. Rachel, I want to start with you. What's the biggest thing you're paying attention to on day one?
There's a lot of big names, big speakers here. The one I'm focusing on is the one I've got to handle here. But chatting with SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey, obviously a time of immense change in the collegiate sports landscape. He's got a front row, not just a seat, is a big part of the discussions on House, how that gets implemented, national legislation that may come address some issues coming out of House, what things look like, as he says, messy middle of changing sports to collegiate sports to what they're going to be. So very curious to hear his perspectives in that discussion.
Probably riding pretty high coming off this football and basketball season. I know that an SEC school didn't win the CFP, but putting all those teams in,
they won a basketball title.
They won a basketball title,
Yeah.
but they performed incredibly well in that first year of having ABC games, almost everything now with ESPN. Couldn't have asked for a better fall. Well, maybe a national title.
Yeah.
But Chris, day one, what has your eye?
Austin, it's a hard one to pick from. I mean, looking at the slate, you have Adam Silver, you have Rob Manfred, you have Bob Iger, you have the Haslam brothers. I think I'm going to pick one, though, that is gives me a few bites of the apple here. We have one on business operators, and it's heavy hitter after heavy hitter. We have CAA Sports co-head Howie Newchow, Dolphin CEO Tom Garfinkel. Of course, Miami Grand Prix and F1 is coming up in a few weeks. And they're a few months off becoming one of the first NFL teams to bring on private equity investment. Sam Kennedy from Fenway Sports Group. Obviously, a ton going on with them between the return of the Red Sox as a major market team. I'm sure he's going to get a little bit into the role that Fenway played in raising $3 billion for the PGA Tour. Landmark investment a little over a year ago. Starting to see some of the returns on that deal. Nick Khan, WWE president, coming off of WrestleMania in Las Vegas, record hospitality numbers. And last but hardly least, Rick Welch, new CEO in Dallas, taking over from St. Marshall with the Mavericks. Obviously, they've had we'll call it a newsy few weeks.
Slightly newsy.
I mean, that is just going to be a fascinating conversation. I would sit and listen to those guys talk for hours. So I can't wait to see what they have to share with the crowd.
And we're fresh off Nico Harrison's press conference, which did not go too well. So I'm sure Welch is going to be asked a question either by the moderator, maybe, or by people in the crowd as to, what is the future of the front office and everything they're going to be trying to do in a post-Luka environment there in Dallas. So definitely paying attention to Rick Welch, not his first rodeo, seasoned Hall of Fame sports business executive. What am I paying attention to? The talk between Bob Iger and Jimmy Pitaro. Those two on stage, everyone's going to be watching to see what they are speaking about for a number of reasons. One, just thinking about the succession issue at Disney. Jimmy Pitaro was already identified as one of the 4 people that might be in the chair to take over Disney. So you had him on stage interviewing Bob Iger, whose job he may be taking in the future. We'll see how that pans out. So interested to see the dynamic there, what Iger maybe says about his role and leadership and what the dynamic is between those two on stage. We also just had Jimmy Pitaro talking to SBJ on the media podcast just about some of the bigger things. We're going to hear more of that. We couldn't get to it all. There are just so many tentacles of the ESPN machine. What is the future, especially direct consumer? That's a big project for Disney and ESPN, that in the fall. So I'm interested to hear from Iger as well, what that's going to look like, how it's going to revolutionize what they're doing within sports.
You're talking about the ESPN machine, Austin. Part of what has them humming so well right now is what they're doing on women's sports. Today we get the opportunity. Carol Stiff is a member of our champions class. Longtime programmer at ESPN, rose up to be vice president, and I wrote the profile on her. It's the first in the series to run, and had a lot to do, had a lot of responsibility for how that network got to where it was doing more women's programming, better women's programming, shoulder programming around it. So that's something I know is going to be part of their future, but also a chance to look at their past with her as part of our champions class.
For anybody who remembers those epic UConn-Tennessee women's basketball battles in the 90s and in 2000s, you can thank Carol Stiff for getting that on ESPN.
Piggybacking off of Rachel's point on champions, another one is Dave Checketts, longtime, incredibly influential sports executive, sports investor. And we just had a big story this week. Dave Checketts has teamed up with the Eccles family, which is a hugely influential family in Utah, to launch the newest sports private equity fund, raising at least $1.2 billion to invest in teams and leagues and media and tech. And I think that points to what I expect will be a bit of a theme throughout the next few days. Institutional capital. We've seen the flood of private equity coming into sports, and I think we're starting to see the effects of it, right? And so through conversations with Rob Manfred and with Adam Silver, I'm going to be keeping an eye out and an ear out for, what have we learned from private equity so far. What are we seeing? Is there all good? Is there bad? Are there concerns? And, interestingly, what will institutional capital maybe do to enable the sports industry to continue to grow amid what we're seeing, to be generous, call uncertain economic times here?
I think that's going to be a huge theme today in many of the discussions, right? The implications that we're going to see across the industry from just at best uncertain economic environment, right? Tariffs are on, tariffs are off, the impact that has on all corners of the business. Just, even the money people have to come in and take in a game and be part of buy these products. I expect that to be a theme maybe through all of the panels.
And Rachel, to your point on just like political headwinds, economic headwinds, we have a lot of people that are going to be able to speak to that, starting with Tennessee Governor Bill Lee. He's going to be introducing the event, probably talk about some of the things that he's seeing later on. We have former Tennessee Governor Bill Haslam. He's going to be on the stage with his brother, Jimmy. Obviously, they own 4 clubs between them. So they have a lot of insights into what is going on there. And not to mention the string of commissioners that we kind of mentioned earlier, Adam Silver, Rob Manfred, and Rachel, like you talked about, Greg Sankey, people that are paying attention to these political and economic headwinds. So a lot of good insights we're going to have on day one here. All right, final thoughts from each of us on day one. Chris, one more thing you're looking at.
I am thrilled to be moderating a panel on TGL. I'm excited because I've got 4 people up there who know each other very well, and I think it's going to be a very fun, very lively conversation with Mike McCarley from Tomorrow Sports, Roz Durant from ESPN, Don Cornwell from Dynasty, obviously you're talking about institutional capital, right? Another one of those private equity funds that's flooding into sports, and Alexis Ohania, whose name is in headlines, I feel like, on a weekly basis these days in the various ways he's getting involved in emerging leagues and women's sports. Couldn't be more excited to see what that group has to say.
Rachel?
I'll be sitting in to listen on that one. Just from my beat as the Olympics reporter, Sarah Hirschland, who's the CEO of the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee, is on the top of the agenda panel to start today. We talk about commissioners. I kind of view her as kind of like a commissioner. The Olympic and Paralympic pipeline is a little bit different than our pro leagues, but a similar role. And she's got a lot on her plate. Collegiate sports changing affects them, commercial things on the horizon with LA 28 only 3 years away, Salt Lake City further down the road, trying to fund a movement privately, doing it with donations. So she's got a, I think, unique but interesting perspective.
Somebody early on that I really want to pay attention to is going to be Mark Marshall. He's from NBC Universal, does ad sales for them. People need to remember the sports vortex that is coming for NBC this winter. We're going to have the Winter Olympics, we're going to have the Super Bowl, and NBC's first NBA All-Star game all together at once. How is NBC selling this? How are they going to be taking advantage of it? Something I'm going to be paying attention to on the first morning here. Well, that does it. So for Chris Smith, Rachel Axon, I'm Austin Karp. This has been your morning Buzzcast for Tuesday, April 22nd. Looking forward to seeing everybody here at the CAA World Congress of Sports in Nashville. Make good choices out there, and we'll talk to you all again tomorrow.